Okay guys, so now we have our storyboards complete. We're going to go ahead and we're going to create our animatic. We're going to create our animatic for our story, and we're going to do that in Adobe Premiere. What I've done here is I've already created a folder on the desktop by the name of temp. In that folder, I have created another folder with our donators title, which is, this is Jenny Gill's story, and it is hook, line, and sinker. And what I've done is I've created a hook, line, and sinker project folder at the top. This is the top of the directory structure for this project. Inside of that folder, I've created a Maya folder, which is currently blank, because we're not into our 3D layout yet. We're just doing our animatic. I'm just kind of putting it in there as a placeholder, because eventually, when we do get 3D Maya files, that's where they're going to go, okay? And then I've also created a video folder, and that video folder is where we're going to store any Adobe Premiere project files, any images we're going to source. For example, in her case here, it's a bunch of storyboard pics. And then we also did a scratch track audio recording session here, which was a lot of fun in class. And we're going to go ahead and use those, all right? So once we have this directory structure completed, so her project is called Hook, Line, and Sinker, my recommendation is to just separate that. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on that. I'm going to actually cut it out of that temp folder, and I'm just going to paste it right here on the desktop. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I want you guys to get into the habit of just copying these project folders from your external hard drives or your smart cards or whatever you've got onto the desktop, working on them, storing everything in the exact same location here. And then once you're done here at school, you're going to copy that right back onto your hard drive. From time to time, you're going to want to make redundant copies of this. So what I like to do is I'd copy this. I'd copy it onto my hard drive, and I usually create a little folder on my hard drive called, I just name it BU for backup. And then I'll just copy every once in a while one of these folders into the BU folder, and I'll name it whatever, hook, line, and sinker underscore, and then whatever that day's date is. And I'll just keep a bunch of those. And then as I get farther and farther along, if I'm running out of memory on my hard drive, I'll just delete the older ones and keep the newer ones. But you want to keep redundant copies of your project folder. Always have like 2 or 3 of those. As well, you want them on your hard drive as well as on the school's hard drive on the Kong as well, so that you don't lose everything, okay? So I'm going to stop working out of that temp directory. And there's my project folder for this project. I'm going to now go ahead and launch Adobe Premiere. So I'm going to open it up. Premiere Pro CC. Go ahead and launch it. Okay. Premiere Pro opens up. The first thing you want to do in here is you always want to say, if you already had a project created, you'd say Open Project. But in this case, we haven't started one. So I'm going to go ahead and say New Project. Here's where we give the project a name. So I'm going to call this Hook, Line, and Sinker. Okay. And then here's where we tell it where we want to store it. So if you'll remember, I already had a directory structure set up out there. So I'm going to go ahead and use that. I'm going to go out to my desktop. I'm going to navigate to that Hook, Line, and Sinker folder. I'm going to store it in the video folder. And then I'm going to say OK to select the folder. And now it's going to create a Premiere project by the name of Hook, Line, and Sinker inside of that video folder. Because this is a Adobe Premiere project file, I want to start using my naming conventions. So I'm going to do a 0, 1 so that I can also save multiple iterations of this thing so that I have redundant copies also. All right. The Premiere project files don't actually store any of the data, any of the link data. It just sources it. It's more of like a roadmap on the computer on where to find all these things. So I recommend to have redundant copies of this as well. So I'm going to save this as Hook, Line, and Sinker 01. I'm going to say OK. It's going to open up. By default, now with Premiere Pro CC, it does not automatically create a sequence. All right, so it just kind of opens up the blank Adobe Premiere interface. And so it kind of is, there's nothing in here, so I can't really do anything until I do this. I'm going to go over here to File, and I'm going to say New, and I want to create a sequence. So a sequence is kind of the equivalent in Premiere of a composition in Adobe After Effects, for those of you who are familiar with After Effects. So I'm going to create a new sequence. It's going to pop up this dialog box, which allows me to use these convenient little presets, which are kind of awesome. All right, so this new sequence, I want to use a preset down here under HDV, which stands for HD video. And I want to use this preset right here, HDV 720p 24. So that's just HD 720p, which is 1280 by 720, and then 24 frames per second, which is what we're rendering everything out of Maya at. All right, so this is consistent with what we're setting our projects up at. And then I want to give my sequence a name. So I'm going to call this, now I'm going to shorten it. So it's hook, line, and sinker sequence underscore 01. I'm going to go ahead and save it. Cool. Now it's going to pull up a timeline here. This opened up my sequence down here in the timeline window. The timeline is basically just my control to play back the frames that I'm about to put in here. Over here we have the project folder, and this is kind of like the bin where we're going to store all our clips for this project. And then over here, this is the playback window. So this is going to play back whatever we're editing. And then up here, this is going to have all sorts of stuff like effects controls, audio clip mixer. We won't really get into that right away, nor will we use the effects controls. So what I need is I have a blank sequence here. And the first thing I want to do in any sequence is I'm going to add some black video. So I'm going to come down here into the bin for my project, and I'm going to right click and say new item, and I'm going to grab a new black video clip. All right, it opens up the black video clip. Width is 1280 by 720. That's awesome. That's what my project's set to. Pixel aspect ratio is 1. That's awesome. Okay, good. Now what I want to do is I want to drag this clip into my sequence, which is going to allow it to now be played back on a timeline. So I'm going to just drag my video sequence over here. For those of you who aren't familiar with Premiere, it's basically a setup where we have a video 1 track, a video 2 track, and a video 3 track. So the way I like to edit is I use video 1 as kind of my A. This is referred to in video editing as A-B roll, or used to be. This is kind of old school stuff. I use video 1 as my A track, video 2 as my B track, and then video 3 is usually reserved for your title track. Okay. This is just a timeline. If I hit the space bar, it's going to start playing it back. If I middle mouse over one of these areas and start scrolling, it's going to expand the clip. Right now it's not doing anything because there's nothing under there. So what I need to do is I want to first establish this black video. For at a minimum, you always want to do 5 seconds of black. So I'm looking right here on my timeline, and I want 5 seconds. I'm going to then trim that black clip by just, if I come in here, if you use the plus arrows, you can zoom in on your timeline to get deeper down. You can also use this little bar here to zoom either way. All right, I kind of actually like the plus and minus keys. It's very nice. So if you want to zoom in on the clip, you just hit the plus key a couple times. And what I did was I set my time slider here to 5 seconds on the dot. And then what I did was I used my little razor here to edit, just stretch the clip so that it conforms perfectly to 5 seconds. All right. But this video also needs a title track, right? Because it's hook, line, and sinker. So what I want to do is I want to expand my video clip, which would normally leave it 5 seconds. I'm going to actually make this thing 10. So I'm going to pull my time slider over here to 10. I'm going to expand this, and I actually don't know if this is enough time. I'm just guessing. We're going to see how it turns out. Cool. Okay, so I got black video. What do I need next? Title, right? So I'm going to right click down here into my bin, and I'm going to say new item, and I'm going to grab a new title. Cool. I want to call this one hook, line, and sinker title 01. Okay. Cool. It's going to open up the title browser. It's going to show the title superimposed over whatever clip you're currently over. In this case, I'm over a piece of black, and so my background is going to be black. All right. I'm going to use the text tool here. I'm going to just click and drag from the top left to the bottom right. And it's going to give me a text input box. So I'm going to call this thing hook, line. I hate this font. I'm going to hit Control A to change the font. And I want to use something. I'm just going to use generic Arial. We can change this later. These clips are editable, so we can change it to whatever we want later. I'm just kind of using this as a placeholder. So hook, line, and sinker by Jenny. Just one L, Jenny. All right. Okay. And then if I wanted to, you can also center these if you want to. All right. And I'm moving it up and down with the up arrow to kind of place it. These little areas here, these bars that you're seeing on the outside, these are your title safe and action safe frames. So these are a little bit less important now that we're in the world of digital. But it used to be older televisions, if you still watch on an older TV. The TVs will crop at varying levels. So basically anything within this area is action safe. And if you want the title to be readable on pretty much any monitor that's out there in the world, you want to make it so your title appears within this box here, which is title safe. All right. So I'm good there, and I'm going to go ahead and accept the changes. You have a whole bunch more options in here, which I don't want to get into. I really just want to get you guys rolling, and we'll get an animatic done. So I'm going to accept this, and then I'm going to drag it in here. Remember what I said? Where do title tracks go? Video 3, right? So let's say I always want to start my project with a minimum of 5 seconds of black, and that just gives whatever device you're playing this back on a little time to catch up. If you're turning a monitor on or something, or the DVD's got a playback, you want to give it some time to respond to your project. All right, so I'm 5 seconds in. I'm going to do my title maybe for 5 seconds. This is probably good. So I'm going to snap that to there. And then I'm going to give maybe like another second before I just jump right into the action. So I'm taking that to 11, and I'm going to drag my clip out to fit it. Okay, cool. So I'm going to play this thing back by hitting the space bar. Cool. Hook, line, and sinker by Jenny Gill. Done. Okay, awesome. All right, next phase. We need some video, right? So I'm going to go ahead and right-click on here, and whenever we want to import something, we want to say New Item, and I'm going to do, oh, I'm sorry, no, we want to do Import, and now I'm going to navigate to where those storyboard frames are stored, and so in this case it's hook, line, and sinker, video, images, and I'm going to go ahead and grab image 1 and just say Open. What it's going to do, and this is kind of nifty in Premiere, is it's going to take this single video, or this single image, and it's just going to make it long on the timeline. And now, I'm kind of glad that this happened, because this is going to happen to you guys at home. I just pulled this clip in, and what's going on here? Yeah, it's cropped because her image is not 1280 by 720. And so it's cropping it on the frame. So what I want to do here is I'm going to pop over to Photoshop. And I'm going to open up her image just to see what size it is. Yeah, that looked like 5,000 or something. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up. And hook, line, and sinker, video, images. Okay, 1. Image size. Hopefully her aspect ratio is good. Ooh, 4200 by 2550. My lord, were you gonna print these or something? Okay, so what I want to do is I want to change the size. So I'm going to say image size. All right, hold on. Okay, this was fun. I'm trying to crop this image, and I don't know why. This is Photoshop CSS or whatever the hell, and I'm using Photoshop CS6 at home. And apparently with this one, mine just works. If I just type in, mine's already set to pixels. And if I just type in 1280 by 720, it'll actually crop it to. This one was very finicky. I actually have to type in 1280 px, which stands for pixels, by 720 px. It kept defaulting back to in for inches. Yeah, that was wildly annoying. That's what happened. All right, so now that I finally typed in px and I say file save as, now I'm going to overwrite the original one, which is what I wanted to do in the first place. You want to replace it? You betcha. All right, and then now when I go back into Premiere, and that one's the cropped one, so if you want to delete a clip, you can just select it and hit delete. I'm going to go ahead and delete that one, and I'm going to say import. There it is, 01. And then finally, I'm going to drag and drop that in. Oh, okay. So now, if I want to play this back, I'm going to come back here to the beginning. I'm going to hit the space bar. You should have a title. And then shot number 1. Okay, cool. All right, but we recorded some audio, so let's get some audio in here. So I'm going to go ahead and say import, and I'm going to look for the audio, and the first one is the establishing music, so I'm going to bring that in. I'm going to go ahead and drag that down here. We got 3 audio tracks, A1, A2, A3. I'm going to go ahead and somewhere about the middle of the title track, I'm going to go ahead and bring in my music, maybe. Okay, I'm going to hit the space bar to play it back. Okay. We're just doing straight cut editing here, so we don't have any transitions. I encourage you guys to not do any transitions until you get your rough cut laid out. Then you can go back in. Let's say we were happy with all this. You can go in and add your crossfades or whatever. So if you want the title to fade in and fade out, that would probably be the first one I would add. We're going to come over here into the Effects tab, and we're going to look under the Video Transitions folder. And then inside of there, there should be dissolves. And I just want to do a cross dissolve, so I'm going to go ahead and grab that. The way that the transitions work is you just drag them to the beginning or the end of the clip you want to apply them to. I'm actually not big on doing any crazy effects of any kind in my video editing unless it's absolutely necessary for effect. All right, so I'm going to I dragged in a cross dissolve on the front of the title. There we go. If you'll notice, it's kind of fading in a little weird and then fading out a little weird. If you want to, that's because the playback up here right now is currently optimized. The software is trying to speed it up, so it's not actually rendering every frame. If you want to render it every frame so you can actually see what the transition actually looks like, if you hit the enter key, the yellow means they're rendered, red would mean that they're not rendered. And then you can see it played back. All right, if you want to change the duration of the dissolves, I can double click on the dissolve here and just type in, if I want that to be 1 second instead of 106, I just double click on the actual transition, 1 second, okay. All right, cool. And then we're going to ask the director, so where does my audio clip come in? Do I need another clip here?
No, not till like the third.
Okay, so I'm going to go back to my project. I'm going to import another storyboard image. And so the third one?
Yeah, third one.
Okay. And so we kind of have a little bit of a passage of time here. So we have shot 2, that we have the introduction of a new character. And then shot 3, there's some action that takes place. So I'm actually going to bring all those in. Remember, I have to change their size because she had them at a crazy resolution. So I'm going to open up like 5 of those, maybe 6. And I'm going to go ahead and say image size. Oh, I forgot I have to crop them. So I'm going to go ahead and crop that one and save it. Control-Shift-S to save a copy. I'm going to save it and just overwrite that. Okay, can close that one. I'm going to crop this one too. Okay, Control-Shift-S to save a copy. Just overwrite the existing one. I would strongly recommend doing this as a batch. which again, I'm just being cheap here because I don't want to set up a batch when I'm only going to do like 5 of these. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and import those images. I'll just do them one at a time. You can do them all as a group, but I'm going to do them one at a time and just drag them into the timeline. Okay, so we got this clip. How long, Jenny, should we hold on this first image, do you think?
Not that long. As long as it is.
Maybe like 2 seconds?
Yeah.
Okay, so right now the beginning of this clip starts at 11. So to make it 2 seconds long, I'm going to go to 13. And then I'm going to just trim it. So I'm going to trim the clip down to fit. All right, now I'm going to drag the second one over to butt it up next to it. And we're going to play that back and see how that looks. Okay. Fish swims in. How long should that one hold for? About a second?
That's second, yeah.
Okay. So we're at 13. I'm going to go to 14. Trim it. Okay. I'm going to go down here and import another image. So number 3. And I'm just staggering them. I'm kind of offsetting them. This is the AB method. You don't have to do it this way. This is just, I've been doing it for a long time this way. So forgive me in my. Okay, so now we've got this one, and I believe we're ready for some audio, correct? Okay, so right here, what audio effect are we looking for?
That's the gas.
Okay, so gas. So I'm going to go to video. 1 second, and gasp. Okay, and then I'm going to bring this down into my audio tracks. And we have the gasp, so I'm going to go ahead and bring that in. Is that about right, Jenny?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And if you want to see the audio output down here, you can just middle mouse, drag over a blank spot right here, and then use your scroll wheel to expand it, and you can actually see the waveform. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and cinch this back a little bit farther so that my gasp starts a little bit earlier. Okay, that's about right. All right, so I'm going to come in here and trim this clip a little bit. And let's just go to like 16. Trim that. All right, I'm going to say import. And I want to go to shot 4. Okay, I'm going to bring this into my timeline. And then is there any audio associated with this one?
That is the donuts, the homemade donuts.
Okay. So we have the fish here who's about to eat this delicious hook. Oops. Okay, so I had to change the way this thing was displayed. I had to go to the list mode because in this version I don't know how to import a clip without having a little bit of blank spot down here, which it wasn't giving me. So I'm going to say import here, and then I want to go to number 5. I'm going to import that guy. So I'm going to drag it up here. Oh, shoot. I wanted the audio. So I'm going to import the donuts scratch track. Okay. And then we have as many, I think we can go up to 99 layers of audio here. So what I'm doing is I'm just staggering these audio tracks one under another. Okay. Yes.
How do you edit the sound without like making it fast?
Yeah, if you have to trim the audio, all you have to do is just drag. I like to drag the timeline to wherever I'm going, and then I just cinch it down like that. Yeah.
But if you do without the timeline,
You want to make sure that you're on the selection tool, which is the shortcut is V. If you do that, it won't change the time frame of it. And so I can trim these guys up here without distorting the time. I'm going to make that clip come a little bit earlier. Okay, a little earlier still. Okay, and then I'm going to import another clip. And I was trying to figure out how to import, but what was happening was my bin was getting filled up. And if you right-click, you would no longer get the ability to import here. It's actually right here. I got to click on this blank spot and then say import, and there we go. And I want to get a new image, so I'm going to go to my video images, and I am at number 4, so I'm going to go to number 5 here. Okay. And then now I'm going to go ahead and bring this clip in. Okay, and then what's the audio associated with that one?
This one was the clown. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to go ahead. Yeah, exactly. So if I wanted to trim my audio clip up a little bit, I can trim it. Okay, and then I'm going to place it right where it needs to go. Okay, and then that's probably good enough. You guys get the idea. What I'm going to do is I would just continue on until I had my entire storyboard laid out with the approximate timing. At this point, I'm really wanting to save my project file, so I'm going to save it once, and then I'm going to save it again. So I'm going to save iterative. Number 2, save it. And then finally, if I want to output this guy so by next week, I want you guys to render this out to a QuickTime movie. You're going to go to File, and we're going to say Export, and we're going to do Media. And we want to do Format, we want to do QuickTime. So right there, QuickTime. And then Preset, let's see here. It's already set up to, where is it? There it is. 720p 24 H264. H264 is just a video codec that compresses it, makes it a lot smaller. It's really a pretty good one, and I believe the defaults are sufficient for turning in your regular homework assignments in this class. All right, so it's basically QuickTime is the format, presets, HD 720p, H264, okay? And then output name, I'm going to just leave this as the default, which is I have HLAS sequence 1, which is my hook, line, and sinker sequence 1 movie. If I want to specifically give this thing a path to where I want this movie stored, I actually have to click on this name and navigate and tell it where I want it to put it, other than just using its default, which is probably not very convenient. See users, faculty, desktop, blah, 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 blah. I want to put this into my project directory, which I just created, which is on the desktop, and it's going to be in there right there, hook, line, and sinker. I'm going to put it in the video folder, and then I usually like to create a folder called output, and output is basically where I put all my rendered movies. All right, so there's my output folder, and I'm going to go ahead and say save, and then I can say export. It's going to render it out. Awesome. It doesn't look like it's going to automatically play it back. So now I'm going to navigate to the folder where I just stored the image, or the movie. I'm going to go to hook, line, and sinker video, output, and there it is. I always want to open this thing with QuickTime rather than Windows Media Player, just because I like the playback controls better in QuickTime. And then there we go. I'm going to play this thing out.
Huh?
Okay, and then that's it. So basically, you're not going to have to render it out until you want to show it to other people. For you and your editing purposes, you're just going to camp out here in the Adobe Premiere interface and get it all edited out. But when you render it out to present next week in class, you're going to output it as a QuickTime movie. All right, so that's it. I want you guys to be 100% finished with your animatics, scratch tracks and all. And then we'll do round 2 of feedback to fix any story elements. And we'll move forward from there. All right, see you guys next time.